There's a lot of cardiologists that are going to be retiring, aging out. We already have a crisis in that there's not enough capacity. So you try to get a cardiology appointment, it's sometimes 2, 3, 4 months out. I've even heard 6 months. So virtual cardiology comes in and it gives you the capability of having an appointment within days instead of months.
This is Laurie McGraw. It's Inspiring Women. I'm speaking with Sophia Kim. She is the Chief Growth Officer of Heartbeat Health. She is newly at Heartbeat Health, and she's also a longtime senior executive, many leadership positions, many sales leadership positions. Sophia, thank you for being on Inspiring Women.
I am honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. We are in New Orleans. We're at the WBL conference. You and I are both excited about it. It's St. Patrick's Day. I know you've got some green to be wearing later. Sophia, I wish we could just start at the beginning, actually, in terms of you've been in many positions of senior leadership. I want to talk about Heartbeat Health. But before we get to that, I'd like to get a little bit of your background. Where did it all start for you as you became a senior leader?
Thanks. I want to say, well, first of all, mine's an immigrant story.
Okay.
So I am an immigrant. I came here when I was 2, came with my father, who is a surgeon for the U.S. military. And we went from base to base to base, and he was helping veterans and working at the VA. Mm-hmm. And so I saw that. I thought that I was going to go into medicine, but actually took a turn. And during college, I decided that I was going to go into English and journalism, and was in New York City.
How'd your parents take that?
So my parents were fine with it. My father was quite traditional, and he felt that, for women, maybe a lighter path would be good. And he thought journalism was great. So he fully supported it. I had my internship with Connie Chung, eye to eye.
Really?
At CBS.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I was really excited, and then the show got canceled.
Oh no!
So in my senior year, I know Connie Chung, and so I was trying to find a good fit. And CBS Studios was going through some things. I worked on the Joan Rivers show for free, and during that time I was looking around, and I was interviewing through my college and found a consulting job at back then it was called Anderson Consulting. But it's now called Accenture.
Yes.
So that spun off a 10-year career in consulting. And I found myself going from financial services to insurance claims to healthcare claims. And then in healthcare, and I was fully, when the company reorganized into different verticals and created a health and life sciences vertical, I found myself in health and life sciences.
So that's where the healthcare started.
That's where it started. And so, 10 years in consulting gives you a lot of experience, depth and breadth. I did a little bit of programming, lots of business design, reorganizations, large-scale systems implementations. And so found myself working on a project at Anthem.
Okay.
And then, life happens. So I got married, I had kids, and a consulting lifestyle with 2 children, especially a newborn and a toddler. Not great.
Yes.
So I was looking around and I found myself at Kaiser Permanente, which is very family oriented, based in Southern California, which we happened to be living at the time, and loved it. And then we implemented Part D there. And so that's where I learned to spell Medicare and Medicaid and low-income subsidy, and really found out the kind of inner workings of government subsidized programs. So, and found a passion for it. And I wasn't in sales.
So when did that happen? When did the sales part of your trajectory happen?
Gradually, and almost, I didn't really notice it happening until it was there.
How did you not notice it happening?
It's incredible, right? I left Kaiser to go to a small family-run company called The Coding Source.
Okay.
And back then in 2009, this was just at the beginning of risk adjustment.
Okay.
And people didn't know what that was.
Right. We still don't know what it is.
We're still trying to figure that out, right? So at the time, the company was doing chart retrieval and medical record coding, and we had nurse nurses and medical record coders. And so I came in as vice president of coding and operations and client services.
Okay.
And so at the time, the CEO would run around the country selling work and then toss it over to me. I'd grab it. We'd code the charts and I'd take care of the clients. And eventually, as the company grew and we became private equity backed, we had more and more. We clipped on, a analytics engine. We acquired another company that did HEDIS quality.
Yeah.
And I find myself as the subject matter expert in some of these things.
Yeah.
So I'd go on to client calls.
Right.
And then the clients would ask me back. And so then we'd start explaining. And then, we'd start talking about different projects and different products and services that we could do. And it was we were developing products on the fly. So
when did it become like you knew that you were doing sales and knew you were doing business development? Because I think that, in many of the different, places in healthcare and in business, sales is not often a place where there are women. And there certainly aren't very many women leaders in sales leadership. I mean, that's still true today, even though healthcare, while we have a more diverse workforce and many different levels, and I'm not, but the business of healthcare, sales specifically, you became quite good at it. You've had more than one chief growth officer, chief revenue officer type of role. So when did it go from just sort of like being client facing and knowledgeable and helpful to, we actually have quotas and we have objectives?
That was when we made the change from the small company and got acquired by MDon.
Okay.
And so, and even then I was doing I was the SVP of sales operations, and I didn't have a quota. We were making up the quotas for everybody else.
Yeah.
So I kind of got into the back end of it and understood the operational side, and then was rolling out sales plans and working with sales leaders and partnering up. When I departed Change Healthcare and then started with Centauri, I took on the role of chief revenue officer. And it was my first foray into the C-suite.
Yep.
It was my first foray into revenue side. And, it was putting into practice everything that I had done. And so it was a natural follow-on. It was a great opportunity for me. The CEO at the time, Adam Miller, is still a friend of mine, and he's such a great human being, but taught me a lot about the industry. And so it was taking the people that having the relationships, and then taking your base understanding of what's going on, and really kind of putting it into practice. And you have your sweaty palms moment.
I know. Every day.
And they say if you don't have that sweaty palms moment, you're not learning or you're not growing. And so I had a few of those, right? And when we started Centauri, it was July of 2019, so excited, and we were getting going. It was everything that I knew how to do. And then the pandemic happened.
Yes.
So it was an interesting time for everyone. By March 12th, we had deployed 98% of our workforce remote, and we had huge call centers. And so, you learn how to sell remotely, virtually, talking to clients, and then it's mostly about helping them solve a problem. And so my sales process isn't really kind of in your face. I take a couple of different methodologies. We do a challenger sale. I also do an advisory type of sale. They're more strategic. And so I stay away from the kind of the per unit magazine type of sales.
That's a good descriptor.
And it's more of a, let's try to find the gap that you have. Let's try to figure out what the problem is and build a solution for you.
It's also more interesting, that kind of
Very much
approach.
so.
I mean, you're actually working on solutions that will have real impact and outcomes for whatever it is you're trying to bring to an organization. Let's fast forward a bit to Heartbeat Health. And so you recently joined as the Chief Growth Officer there. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Why? Why Heartbeat Health? I mean, there are many different organizations that are out there. Why did this one speak to you?
So I actually sought them out.
Okay.
I saw that they were looking for a growth function, and I called the CEO And the reason why is care is moving into the home. Heartbeat Health is a virtual cardiology practice.
Okay.
There's no brick and mortar. They are a group of cardiologists. It's a network. Let's call it a practice. And they offer cardiology, cardiovascular support to at-risk provider groups, health plans, and hospitals and health systems. And what I find is that, I've done the payer side, I've done the vendor side, I've done the products and services and the technology, the health tech, and the analytics. But the clinical side is really where the care delivery happens.
Yes.
And so I wanted to go into care delivery to see that part. I've seen the other parts. So care delivery to me is where things are going to be put into motion, and especially cardiovascular. There's such a dearth of it out there. You have your brick and mortar cardiovascular surgeons and your proceduralists. You have your generalists, but really, cardiovascular disease.
Let's talk about that, because it's a fragmented system, and there are many cardiovascular centers that are out there, brick and mortar, that are specific, only focus on cardiology. Why is that not enough? Can you just talk about cardiovascular health? I mean, it is complicated. It is just maybe you can give us some background on why cardiovascular health is so important and complicated.
Yes. Complicated because it's cardiovascular has so much to do with your entire body, and people just think it's the heart, and it's not. So there's something called CKM, which is the cardio kidney metabolic syndrome. And it's because it's talking about you are a whole person. It's not just your heart. It's not just your liver. It's not just your kidneys. Everything's integrated and interrelated. And so things that are, if you think about diabetes or chronic kidney disease, those affect your heart too. And we don't seem to look at it that way. So I think, for when we talk about cardiovascular disease, right? The number one killer in the world, actually across men and women, it is known as the silent killer because people don't recognize the symptoms. And you said there's a bunch of cardiovascular centers around the US. Absolutely. But you know what? Cardiovascular, cardiology is the one specialty with the highest average age. The average age of a cardiologist in the US is 59.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, really? So what does that mean? So does that mean that we need more that are younger? Where are you going with that?
We need to be graduating more.
Okay.
There's a lot of cardiologists that are going to be retiring.
Oh, aging out.
Yeah, aging out. We already have a crisis in that there's not enough capacity. So you try to get a cardiology appointment, it's sometimes 2, 3, 4 months out. I've even heard 6 months. So virtual cardiology comes in and it gives you the capability of having an appointment within days instead of months.
And, the American Heart Association has done so much work to educate all of us on the importance of heart health, and in particular, shining a light on just, how big of an impact this is for women. And, and so in terms of that, where are people seeking care? Do you seek care, or does Heartbeat Health actually proactively go after primary care types of patients to educate them? Just maybe tell us what Heartbeat Health does.
Sure. So we're not necessarily a B2C model. We don't go after patients. We're partnering with the at-risk provider groups to be able to help. So in a primary care setting, you have your primary care physicians that are out there and looking for helping patients. And so they might not feel comfortable making a cardiovascular diagnosis. And so we bring in our cardiologists to be able to then help, and then they can refer to specialty cardiology. And because we're virtual, we can basically operate in all 50 states and help support and not
diagnostics diagnostics that that are in the home and you're working with them virtually.
We sure
really
can.
Oh my gosh, like what?
So, for instance, we can do something called continuous ECG monitoring. There are these little devices that you can put onto your chest, and it monitors you. And we partner with several companies that do that. We basically send. When we will partner with in-home health assessment companies.
Okay.
So as they go and send clinicians into the home, they will patch a member. They will wear it for 14 days. And then after that's done, our cardiologist will do the read and then call the member.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where do you see technologies like, or just AI as like, the rage in all of these sort of like, where things are going? How can that help in this area?
So in cardiology, I think, I'm going to defer to all of the doctors to be able to use AI or not. Where I can tell you in sales and in member engagement is where AI is really coming into play.
Okay.
Right? I think we can probably dial out to more members using AI. We have virtual assistants to help schedule. We have virtual assistants to go in and help process and translate for non-English speakers.
Yeah.
So it's a great use. On the diagnostic side, where we're still waiting and seeing.
Yep. So in terms of what Heartbeat Health is doing, so you sought them out in terms of this new model for taking care of patients. Where do you see it going? How many people are comfortable getting this type of care at home? I mean, I think this is just like an interesting space because, it's so hard to see physicians now. The wait times, as you said, are tremendously long. They're only getting longer. And if you have a heart issue, I don't think that's something that you actually want to wait for. So in terms of the model, how much do you think it's scaling? What do you see the impact being?
So it's pre-pandemic. I can tell you telehealth was in the single digits. The low single digits.
Yes.
And then it skyrocketed. So but even though after the pandemic was over, it did scale back quite a bit. So I would say it's still in the 20%. Now it's growing. And I think that if I were to be given an option of waiting 3 or 4 months to see a cardiologist or within 7 days have a virtual appointment, I would happily talk to somebody. Because think about it. You have your diagnostic. It's not about sitting with a doctor and having them listen with a stethoscope. It's about looking at the reads or even talking to them about behavior modification, how to change your medications, what are you doing? So, I've never actually had a cardiovascular issue myself.
Well, good.
Thankfully.
Yes.
But if I were to, I would need to talk to my cardiologist about what else can I do? What am I doing? What is my behavior? What am I eating? Right? Take a look at my cholesterol. So here are my blood tests. I don't need to be in an office to do that. So, and I'm comfortable. You would be surprised how many Medicare recipients are comfortable using telehealth.
I'm always surprised that, we talk about like older populations and cardiovascular health. We often think of older people as the predominant people who are dealing with this, but the comfort with technology, it varies, but it's almost ubiquitous. I mean, people all have cell phones. We all know how to use our smart devices that are in our pockets. Sophia, if we talk a little bit about, you said this is a new area for you in terms of clinical care delivery, being something that you sought out, you wanted to do. For all of the skills that you had, that's a very purposeful choice that you made. So what have you learned so far? Have all the skills transferred like perfectly? Have there been like new challenges? What are your thoughts there?
The new challenges are that cardiology is so complicated and it's such a complex space, but I love it. I'm learning every day. My CEO, Dr. Jeff Wessler, has been excellent, and my CMO, Dr. Jana Goldberg, has been wonderful, and they are such good teachers for me. But what
we started this interview and you were like, Laurie, I'm not a cardiologist. Just FYI, I'm not. I'm like, I didn't think so. So
yeah, and I'm not. But I bring to them all of the vast kind of relationships that I built over the years. I've also, built up my knowledge of all the sales processes and kind of putting into place the order and procedure. And, you think about, okay, what does it take to actually make a sale? And so many things, right? The sales cycle in healthcare is 18 to 24 months easily. Right? So you develop something, you germinate a seed, you help it grow, right? You keep caring and feeding it. And then all of a sudden you have your opportunity and it's blossomed into, a project or a signed contract.
Yep.
Right.
Well, it sounds like that sounds like a process. You talked about the challenger sale. You talked about doing advisory types of sale. Those skills seem to have transferred, but the learning that comes with it also seems pretty enjoyable. So, Sophia, if we bring it back to you in terms of just your leadership style, so how are you as a leader? What are your key characteristics that you feel most proud about?
Yeah, thanks. My key characteristics are I stay curious. I want to be somebody that is a partner and a collaborator, not a teller, right? I think when I tell somebody, hey, you should do this, it should be taken with you know what, I think these are the best processes that we have. Let's try to get to the best outcome. So I would much prefer to be seen as an advisor rather than a boss, right? And have a very collaborative style. I stay open to lots of different opinions. And then, we'll have a discussion about what's kind of the best route. Now, if there are things that I've tried and I know that this is the most direct path, I'll come out and say it. Look, I think this is the most direct path.
Let's go there. Let's take a shortcut.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're also here at the WBL conference, and you have been a member since when?
I've been a member since 2020.
Okay. And so why is this organization important to you?
WBL stands for Women Business Leaders. And I truly believe that we need to grow and care for women business leaders. I have not been in an organization that has been so focused in growing women as much as WBL, and specifically in healthcare.
Yep.
I've done other industry organizations where I've joined and I felt like this is great, but it doesn't speak to me as much. And here, everyone that I've met has been so wonderful. And in the first year, it was so great that I actually joined the membership committee. So I am now helping to onboard new members and help them navigate the platform, understand what's available to them. And to this day, when I reach out, I meet so many great women. I've actually even hired some on for consulting roles and project work in some of my past jobs. So it's been wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I think that, for me, as a longtime member as well, it's an organization that is not just supportive, but it's like sometimes I just feel like I just need that group. I didn't even know that I needed it.
That's
and,
right.
It's a group of all senior women executives. And so, we should have it all figured out. But I think in this time, the area for women in leadership has become more challenged. And we're seeing more women drop out of the workforce. So maybe as we close out this Inspiring Women conversation, Sophia, I would just love your thoughts on leadership and how you inspire others to, up their game, continue to move on their career trajectories. What do you say to them?
I say there's a phrase that I've been using since my father passed away. He used to tell me, hey, be like water. Water takes the form of whatever container it's put in. If it's put into a shallow bowl, it becomes a shallow bowl. If it's in a tall glass, it becomes tall glass. So modify to your environment. And I've really kept to that adage. And that's what I say to women is, take a look around, look at your environment, modulate. Don't change who you are, but accommodate to the environment and learn and grow and use the opportunities to be more.
I love that. So we're going to all be like water. I think that is really terrific advice. I've been speaking with Sophia Kim on this Inspiring Women conversation. Sophia, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.